So the overriding theme of this panel is equal and just societies, and I have been tasked with the topic of migration. In the midst of this global pandemic, which has affected all of us, but not equally, we are all experiencing an element of forced immobility. And whilst frustrating, the majority of you listening to me look forward in hope to a time when you can just jump on a plane again. Migration, though, is not experienced equally. If we look at the thousands upon thousands of lives lost in the Mediterranean Sea over the past 2 decades, well, these people, predominantly young people, risked their lives because they were denied the safe and legal option to travel. If I just limit my reflections to this year and to my own country of Malta, over the past few months, we have witnessed the ongoing illegal detention of asylum seekers for months on end. In the summer, the government of Malta detained asylum seekers out at sea, just outside territorial waters, for weeks on end in the scorching heat. And on Easter Monday, a group of 51 people, including 7 women and children, were unlawfully returned to Libya after being rescued in Malta's search and rescue area. 12 people lost their lives that day, and the survivors were placed in detention in Libya as civil war raged on outside. Beyond Malta to the broader EU, and the recently launched Migration Pact points to where member states' priorities lie, namely in preventing asylum seekers from arriving at our shores. And so there are young people around the world who are forced to endure immobility at all times, and not just during a global pandemic. Theirs is a story framed by inequality, dehumanization, structural violence, war, and conflict. And yet many will attempt the journey anyway, and some will lose their lives trying, and others will make it and will be confronted with injustice and more violence within the EU borders. As an academic and as a youth worker, I have always taken what can broadly be defined as a critical approach, but I think we need new ways of thinking to respond to contemporary challenges, including, but not limited, to migration and refugees, and local, regional, and global inequalities brought about by the intertwined forces of technological advance, climate change, and neoliberal globalization. I have started to look outside of my comfort zone, drawing on the work of Braidotti, Deleuze, and others, to reflect on the state of our planet and those who inhabit it, on how such inhumane practices affect us all, but in particular, those racialized, sexualized, all too disposable bodies who continue to fall short of the normative humanist ideal. And I look to advancing what I'm calling a critical post-human youth work approach that adopts a pedagogy of possibilities and becoming. Briefly, I'll give some pointers as to where I'd like to see youth work heading or becoming. Norms, values, concepts, and ideas change over time. Notions of nation, European, citizen, and human rights are not constant, but evolving. To suggest that they are static or fixed is to suffocate and sow the seeds of inequality. A critical post-human practice needs to embrace change as part of an affirmative and ethical praxis that is brave and creative, asking questions like, how might notions of the citizens and rights evolve? How might safe and legal migration be an option for all young people? And how might this world be more kind, more just? Youth work must embrace conflict and uncomfortable conversations as part of its relational praxis. Consensus must not be manufactured or imposed. We are in the midst of a global pandemic, an experience that has affected all of us, but not equally. If it has taught us one thing, though, it is that we are all interconnected and codependent. In a planet on the brink of a climate catastrophe, we might want to reflect on how youth work can transcend the traditional focus of belonging and our understanding of youth work as a relational praxis to reach out beyond the local, transgressing binaries and boundaries, be they human, geographical, political, virtual, technological, ecological, animal, or other, and find new ways of living together. And finally, we, and this is a we made up of unique, differentially situated, complex and evolving individuals with multiple belongings, we who are engaged in youth work must remain informed, critical, and continue to speak truth unto power. Thank you.